going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the White Cat Outdoors podcast, episode 175. This week, we're breaking down some of our favorite turkey hunts that we've had over the years, just getting excited for the new turkey season. You know, by the time this episode releases and you guys are listening, we'll already have a day or two of hunting in, and we're just super stoked and wanted to kind of reminisce on some of our favorite hunts over the years. I also deliver a little bit of bad news. I had a equipment failure with my bow this afternoon right before we recorded, and I'm not going to be able to have my bow up and running before the start of turkey season. Hopefully by the end of the season I'll be able to break it out, but I apologize for the big buildup of me hunting with my bow. Obviously couldn't predict this sort of thing, but it is what it is. We're going to work through it, but opening morning we're going to be shooting shotguns. We're still going to have a blast, obviously. But we hope you guys enjoy this episode. I'm going to quit rambling, and let's get tuned into this week's episode.
So I did the cardinal sin. I pull up my bow, and then I look dead at his antlers. I got out of the truck, and when I slammed the door, I heard gobbles all around me.
Let's see it.
Alaska, moose, spot and stalk. That is the bucket list. I agree.
White Cat Outdoors. White Cat Outdoors.
What's up, everyone? I don't know what state you're in, but our turkey season, by the time you're listening to this, will be well underway.
And turkeys will be down.
Yeah, we're excited. And me, Nick, and Tom are all here to talk about it.
It's going to be wild. But before we jump into that,
Nick lied to you guys.
He is a big liar.
yeah, so I guess...
He's been talking for weeks.
Do you guys want the good news or the bad news?
Just straight up tell him what's going
No,
on.
I have two separate things, good news, bad news. What do you want first, Tom?
Give us the bad news so then the good news will cheer us up.
That's the right answer right there. So, as I've been talking for weeks, going out with the archery equipment on Saturday.
And saying how easy it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that doesn't, it's not relevant to this story.
Just give them the context. In case you're a first-time listener coming in, Nick promised the listeners that he was going to shoot a bird
I did
with
not
his
promise.
bow, and it was going to be
He
easy.
did. He said no problem. Probably get it on film just because it'll be so easy.
Yeah, I don't know. But
Now
anyways,
you're caught up to speed.
yeah. So I've been shooting all week. I've been playing around with, just getting comfortable shooting from a different position that I'm used to and all that stuff. And I was shooting, so like for the past couple weeks, I've just been shooting my normal setup, just kind of get back in the feel of things, Beginning of this week, I decided, let's switch over to my turkey arrows, adjust the sight a little bit, obviously.
Yeah.
But I bought some special arrows. If you guys are curious of like the full setup, go a couple episodes back. We talk about it. But anyway, they have some really big feather fletchings on them. And I noticed that they were hitting my riser. Or not the riser, but they're like basically hitting my bow is just the easiest way to put it. And it was giving me a small bit of deflection, and I just didn't like it, and it was just, it's just not accurate. So I was like, okay, well, I guess we're going to go back to my original arrows, that I use for deer hunting, and just see if my broadheads will fit, and I drew back. I got like less than a half inch of clearance between my finger and the bottom of the broadhead, which little dicey, but it's behind the broadhead, so nothing really can happen.
Yeah.
Not ideal, but it is what it is. So got that all set up, and I was, throwing darts. It was just absolutely perfect. 3 in a row, boom, boom, boom. Took his head right off on my target, and it was feeling really good. So put everything away. Yesterday, spent a couple days getting it all ready. I was ready to go, like excited, confident that bird's is done. And so today, get home from work, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's kind of nice out. Let's just throw a few more, just get the good feel. So I put my field points back on. I throw like 2 arrows, boom, boom, right in the bullseye. And then third one is like out in left field. I'm like, that's weird. So I grab them, shoot again, and I am all over the target. 20 yards, and I cannot hit a pie plate. And I'm like, what is going on?
It sounds pretty typical of you.
No, it's not. Anyone that's shot with me knows it's not it. But so I'm like, all right, maybe I'm just moving, sitting on this stool. Let me stand up, throw a few, same thing. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm doing something weird with my form. Let's, back to square one, Nick. Like, speak out everything you're doing. So I draw back, nose on the string, thumb in the jawbone, like everything, holding extremely long through my shots, and I was not able to even hit a pie plate at 20 yards. It was like I was dumbfounded. So I'm like, all right, let's take a look at the equipment. I always like to assume it's me first.
Yeah.
Just because that's typically the way it goes. So I take a look at the sight, and my sight housing's loose. I'm like, oh, simple enough. And I go down to tighten it down, get it all. Like I have to figure out about where I need to be. So back the screw back off, and I notice that the dial to adjust the left to right is canted. And it's not supposed to be canted. It's supposed to be straight. And I go to adjust it, like try and see what's going on. It just snaps right off. I'm like, that's nice.
Yeah.
So we're recording Wednesday night, 2 days before the season, and my sight's broke. So I am formally apologizing because I lied. I was going to hunt with a bow, and it's just not going to happen this year. I could put another sight on it, but it's just grabbing a whole new sight. I'd have to put a new peep in my bow because my peep is a specialized, it's an oval to fit the sight housing that I use. And it's just, I can't shoot tomorrow. Friday would be the only day I could shoot. And then I would have to go in the woods Saturday. And just me personally, I just don't think it's an ethical decision for me to totally get a new sight, shoot it, one day, and then go out and expect to be lethal and ethical. So I'm breaking out the shotgun. It's going to make things a little bit less stressful. Not that it was really stressful. I was excited about the whole thing. I was just a straight kick to the dick this evening.
It sucks. We'll make fun of you for it, though.
Oh, yeah, because what's going to happen is I'm going to get a bird at like 20 yards with my shotgun that's in full strut, just gave me every opportunity, and I'm just, I'll probably give him the finger and then my shotgun. But
it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, so I'm pretty pissed about it, still pissed about it, but like you guys are hearing this extremely fresh. Like this happened about an hour ago. So it is what it is. I just have to be honest with myself and understand that it's not right for me to try and hunt with it that way and move on from it.
Yeah,
so.
It's definitely not ethical for you to throw a setup together and shoot a few arrows and go.
Yeah,
out in the
and
woods.
now what I'm probably going to end up doing is putting another sight on it while I get this one warrantied, and shoot throughout the week. And if I get comfortable, maybe towards the end of the season, break it out.
Haven't shot a bird.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure I'll have a bird by then, but I got 3 tags.
Yeah. Yeah, you got New York.
Yeah, I got 2 in New York, 1 in PA. So, well, I mean, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen this year, but opening day is going to be shotgun.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. Can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Good news, if you guys ordered your shirts in the first 2 weeks like we had pushed for, they're in. So I'm going to start getting that stuff out this week. By the time, if you're local to us, by the time you're listening to this Sunday, you may already have it if we've hooked up. So second batch of stuff is in the process of being made right now, so a couple weeks out. But if you were awesome and got in right away, your stuff's done, and we're excited to get that out to you guys. I'm hoping to sling a big old bird over the Send Snoods hoodie on Saturday.
That'll be dope.
So it's going to be wild. So it's going to be fun. But I want to lighten some lighten the mood here since I've kind of brought us down a little bit.
You're bringing us down big time.
But it's
Well, real quick before we get into that, why don't we talk about what we did this weekend?
why don't you take that because you did most of it.
Yeah.
So go ahead. What did you do last weekend, Tom?
So I was gonna say our trees finally came in, but that's
That's not
true.
really true.
I finally went down and picked up my trees because they
It was like a month we were waiting for them.
Yeah, we did a podcast weeks ago
Yeah.
that we were getting ready to do the trees, and little did we know.
They weren't going to send them.
So me and I had to recruit some help. The regular crew was all preoccupied with other stuff, so I got my good buddy Ben,
Who's
and-
getting into hunting this year.
yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So he told me he would come help. Actually, he asked what I was doing this weekend, and I'm like, I got to go up to Climber. I'm planting 400 trees. He's like, who's helping? And I was like, nobody. It's going to be me. He's like, well, I'll come up with you. I'm like, you don't have to. He's like, no, I got nothing going on. I'll come up with you. So I'm like, awesome. I really appreciate it. So the night before Friday, I wanted to take him out, have a cold beer on me, just as a
Took
thank
him to
you.
one of our local finest places.
Yeah, we went to the valley. We were just shooting pool, having a good time, drinking a few beers, and planned
Were there
on,
darts?
like throwing darts or ripping darts?
Ripping darts.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, I ripped
It's
a few
one of the
darts.
last smoking bars in the area, and none of us smoke on a regular basis. But if you go into a smoking bar, it's kind of like a one in Rome kind of thing.
Yeah, so and I planned on keeping it low key that night because I knew I had to get up early and drive
You
to
always
go
do.
pick up my trees. So we're getting ready to leave the valley, and Luke shows up, and then my parents show up, and then they were there till about midnight, and then they talk us into going down to the other local watering hole. So we didn't get done until
Where did you guys go to Elk Creek?
Yeah, till about 2:00 in the
Your old
morning.
family bar.
And I get home, drop Ben off, and now it's like 2:30
Why didn't he just stay with you?
because he lives a mile down the road.
That's true.
So 2:30, I get home, set my alarm for 5, wake up, get my life together, go pick Ben up. We head down to the local country fair, fill up, grab a couple breakfast sandwiches, and we're on the road by 6:00. And we had to drive down to Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Oh, you hadn't even picked up the trees yet.
No. No, drove down to Indiana, Pennsylvania, which was a 2-hour drive. Got our 400 trees, and
But they did knock the delivery charge off at least
yeah, they
for you.
did take the delivery fee.
Oh, that was sure nice of them.
Here, since you guys drove down here, we'll knock off the delivery charge.
So then I had to drive 3 hours north to Climber. So didn't get up there till about noon, and it was pouring down rain pretty good. So we stopped at another local watering hole, French
I love
Creek
it.
Tavern. Got ourselves a beer and a sandwich, waited for the rain to subside. And by 1:00, we were planting trees. And we got 100 Norway spruce, 100 Chinese chestnut, 50 swamp oak, 50 English oak, 50 white oak, and 50 red oak. And we went to town on the nut trees, planted all 300 of those Saturday afternoon. And like we've mentioned before, we recently did some logging on the one hillside, took a lot of big mature cherries off, which created some nice open areas where the sun's really coming through. So we loaded that hillside with nut trees. And then we have one food plot, we call it the gas well. And I surrounded the perimeter of that food plot with nut trees. So in
Nice. That's a good idea.
15, 20 years, there's going to be oaks all the way around and chestnuts all the way around that food plot.
That'd be really nice.
Um,
Maybe hang a stand in there someday because there's not great stand
No,
trees
there's
there.
not.
and then we have a couple other food plots in the woods. One we call the hidden food plot, but it's
Why
really
do we call it that?
because it's hidden. And it's pretty swampy back there, so I planted a bunch of swamp oaks around that. And then I planted a bunch of swamp oaks in the general area around Frank's food plot, or the bear stand, as it's now called.
Good old bear stand.
I wonder if other people have like nicknames for every stand location.
I bet they do. I mean, how else would you know what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean every single like
You can't
there's
just say over in that stand for everything.
yeah, I mean
you're
there's
talking
every
about.
single stand or food plot we have has a name.
Yeah.
And it does change, based on events. Like Austin stand has been renamed. I don't know if we've officially renamed it, but it's going to be renamed this year after 2 bucks got killed out of it back to back. So Austin's Ladder will no longer be called Austin's Ladder, but that's all right. Frank's food plot got changed to the Bear stand. It just happens. Thanks, Tom. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. So we finished planting up trees.
You didn't finish.
Well, for the day, and then
What? Yeah, you can say
okay.
it.
So
The reason I guess
I was like,
yeah.
what are you doing?
So, we finished planting up Saturday afternoon. Finished the 300 nut trees, and then, I'll let Nick share
Yeah, I
this.
feel like we should
Yeah.
have started the
Yeah, we probably
episode
should.
with this is big news.
Yeah, we probably could have brought this up. So the part of the reason I wasn't able to go with Tom is I just got engaged over the weekend.
Woo.
Yeah, good stuff. Really good stuff. So I was in the process of celebrating that Saturday. Took a little day trip. Went to Texas de Brazil. I don't know.
Oh my god, that is my all-time favorite restaurant.
If you enjoy eating meat until you sweat, that's
until
the
you
plate.
want to puke.
Yeah,
It's
that's what
not
I did.
just sweat. It's
I
you're
got-
uncomfortable.
I
at
got
that
the meat
place.
sweats. I had some fine whiskey.
Oof.
Yeah, it was.
That place is awesome.
Yeah, they had McKellen 12, which was absolutely delicious, and I mean fillets, bacon wrapped chicken. Tom's saying wrap it up, but it was really good. If you like meat, try it out.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to Tom. My celebratory weekend was coming to an end, and we had not finished getting trees planted. So
I drove from Clymer back down to McCain to celebrate Nick and Kayla's engagement. And then me, Nick, and Ben went back up to Clymer Sunday morning to plant the 100 Norway spruce.
Yep.
And we, a couple years ago, planted 2 rows along the road frontage. And then when we had it logged, the loggers took it upon themselves to
it'd be
run
tough to
a few
avoid.
Yeah, they ran some over. So we
I would say
planted-
about half got run over.
but we replaced that half, and then we actually put in another row.
Oh yeah.
So there's 3 rows of pines that some are bigger than others, but in 25 years they'll all be
Yeah.
about the same size.
Mhm.
And then we littered some. We have the one side of the field we're trying to turn into woods, pretty much. So we put some more pine trees in there, and then
And then we have this, what we call the foundation goldenrod field. And I had one really nice pine tree growing in this gap where you could see into the field. And I didn't want people seeing in there, so I planted a pine tree there. And then Nick took it upon himself to run that one over with his truck.
it had to be done. I buried the tractor back at the hidden food plot because that's all swamp. And I mean, I buried 40-inch tractor tires right up to the axles and could not get it out. I tried to self-extricate for about an hour and a half and realized that it was going to need another piece of equipment. Only piece of equipment I had was my pickup truck. Tom planted.
You're making a real long story out of you ran the pine tree over.
Yeah, I did.
So now
I ain't
planted
even sorry
6
about
of
it.
them in that gap.
Yeah, so if I run them over again, some of them will probably still
Yeah,
be there.
you can
Yeah.
run over 4 of them.
No, you could not run over any of them.
Oh, we'll see.
Then why'd you plant so many, Tom?
To block it off.
But yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, that was it. That's about it.
All right. Well, now that we got kind of the business side done, figured, kind of lighten it up. Turkey season is among us. We haven't been able to hunt yet, but we've had some really fun hunts in the past, and I figured we could each kind of just go through our favorite turkey hunts, just kind of get people pumped up, ready to go, get them jacked up on some success stories, and then hopefully next week we've got some fresh kills to talk about, because we got quite a few of us are going out. It's going to be a good time. I guess I'll start, just to make it easy on you guys because I've just got so many turkey stories. So I want one of my favorites, and it's not my favorite, like number one, but the other ones I've already told on here. So I want to bring
Why don't you just tell them real quick what your number one is?
my number one and number two are back-to-back doubles with you after pancreatitis.
That's my number one and number two.
But number three for me is probably my other double that I got with my buddy Joe Grimaldi. That one also kind of involves Tom, but kind of early. Was it earlier that day or the next day?
It was earlier
It was
that
the day before.
Or day before, yeah. So day before, Tom goes out, shoots one gobbler out of a flock of 4, and comes back to camp. We're partying. I slept in that night or that morning because I think.
No.
Oh boy.
What happened when we all got up, did our morning hunt routine, got back to camp about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and Nick and Joe and Frank called it quits. I'm like,
I was leaving.
yeah, they called it quits.
Had he not took out the birdhouse, he probably would have been gone.
So they called it quits, and I'm like, I got to get back out there. So I go back out, smoke this bird, and Nick and Joe were sitting at camp, twiddling their thumbs or whatever else it is.
I
But
came and picked you up.
yeah, in the Kubota.
Yeah.
That was at camp. So you were.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I came down and helped you.
Yeah. So then I told them, hey guys, I called in this flock of gobblers. Was 4 or 5 of them. Now there's one less, but get after them. So they went out the following morning, and then this is where Nick picks up.
Yeah, so we celebrated Tom's bird pretty heavy that night. So I'm not sure if we got out there at sunrise. I don't think we did. It might have been a little late. My buddy Trevor was with us. He wasn't hunting, but he just wanted to, along for the ride. And
I forgot Trevor was there for that.
yeah, it was a good time. So we had, I think there was a ground blind that could seat 2 people on the edge of the field, and then there was an old round
That
bale.
me and Frank set up.
Oh,
You're
okay.
welcome.
Cool. Worked great. Good location. So Trevor and Joe sat in the ground blind, and I sat against the hay bale about 15 yards from them. And I told Joe, I said, we'll do some calling here. And, Tom said these birds kind of worked up this way yesterday. We're just going to kind of hang tight, see what happens. I'll call. I said, if more than one bird comes in, wait till you're ready to shoot. Take your shot. If there's another one, I'll see what I can do. But I'm more worried about getting Joe his first gobbler. So we go taking off, and I'm calling a little bit. We hear some birds in the distance, but they're not really committing. Joe does a little bit of calling, and just nothing really seemed to like hammer on us. So I was like, all right, Joe, we're just going to stay patient. We'll just stick it out. And about 45 minutes, hour later, silent, 3 gobblers all together start cresting this hill. And all I could see was just 3 redheads about 80 yards out as they're just coming up over the hill on the field edge there. I gave a look at Joe, made sure he was paying attention, because we weren't like within talking distance, but it was like a, hey, hey, take a look.
Yeah.
Made sure he knew. I'm like, all right, so I'm sitting there. I got my gun ready, safety's off, and I've just got it kind of like propped on my knees. I'm not really shouldered yet because, at this time the birds are maybe like 70, and they're just kind of working in. I clucked a few times because we had our decoys out and stuff, just trying to keep them, hey, yeah, something's going on over here. And they get to about 40, and Joe's 20 gauge goes off. And doesn't that first bird just roll right over, and the other 2 start flying through the air. I pull up, shoot them like trap. Another one dive bombs out of the air, hits the ground, and go running out there, get both the birds. Joe's freaking out. It's his first gobbler ever. Super excited. I couldn't believe it actually worked out. Like, Tom killed 1 out of the 4. We killed 2 more. Like, it was just absolutely insane. And it was like probably one of the most impressive shots I've ever made on a turkey. I've made farther shots, but like full-fledged flying through the air was by far my best shot I've ever made on a bird. And I think it just comes back to like trap shooting for years. Like I never shot competitively like you guys, but I was at the trap house every single week with you guys and shots. Like I was pretty confident in,
Yeah,
doing that, but obviously it worked. Dive bombed him, but
clearly.
yeah. Tommy, I know you got a few turkey stories over the years.
One of my favorite turkey stories doesn't actually really involve me pulling the trigger. It's my buddy Trevor.
This is a good one.
Oh, is it? Yeah, okay. Yeah,
So
I think this
he,
is one and only bird.
yeah, and
I think this is the only time you went out.
he went
hunting.
down to Warren with me and Nick once.
Yeah.
Oh, we bamboozled him there.
So my buddy Trevor, I don't know if we ever talked about it on the podcast, but he lived with me and Nick for a summer. It was one hell of a summer.
Well, it goes down as probably one of my favorite summers of my life.
But he started hanging out with me and Nick and he still hunts a little bit, but he was all about it when he was living with me and Nick. So he wanted to go turkey hunting. I'm like, all right, I'll take you out. So we get permission from, it was a lease that my uncle Frank's dad and my boss at the university, they had this lease. And we got permission to go out there. And there's like a goldenrod field, and there's like this little kind of open meadow off to the edge of it on the edge of the woods. And then there's a bunch of pine trees. And I think it was Frank told me that a lot of times they roost in those pines and then they come out into this little clearing in the morning and strut and whatnot. So I'm like, all right, we'll set up there. So it was out in this field and there was no trees to sit on. So me and Trevor, we found this nice bush to kind of nestle yourself back in, and it was horribly uncomfortable. Like in 15 minutes, my legs were numb and tingling. Like,
That's the best.
yeah, like this is going to be a long morning. So birds are gobbling off the roost, going like crazy in the pines right where Frank said they were. And we could hear them pitch down, and they just never came out to the field. We stuck it out till about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and they hadn't gobbled for well over an hour. And I'm like, I can't sit here any longer. Trevor, let's go in the woods and chase these buggers around. So we go into the woods, and we sit down, and I let out a call, and nothing. And I look over, and Trevor's taking a little snooze. I'm like, that doesn't really sound like a bad idea. So I nod off for a little bit. I wake up. Trevor's still sleeping, and I'm like, I'm going to call to wake him up. So I let out a few yelps, and Trevor perks up and just gobbles hammerback. I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, baby.
Now we're in him. So he's all ready, and they were probably about 200 yards away. And I waited about 5 minutes, called again. They hammer back, and they sound like they're just out of eyesight. I'm like, these puppies are coming. So it
I
wasn't
thought you were
long.
turkey hunting.
Yeah, these turkeys were coming. So it wasn't long after that, we see them like 80 yards away, and they're just coming in on a string. So Trevor, he was using a Mossberg 835, which is a 12 gauge, and they get to about 35 yards, and I'm like, okay, Trevor, shoot. And he's just holding on them.
And they're just keeping moving right in on you.
Yeah. And they get to about 25 yards. I'm like,
Let him have it.
shoot. It's like 20 yards. I'm like, Trevor, shoot. 15 yards. I'm like, Trevor, shoot now. Boom! Drops his gobbler right in front of us. He's freaking stoked. And we go running up to it, deader than a doornail. I think he hit it with the wad. How close it was. But it was just an awesome experience. And I explained, I'm like, Trevor, just so you know, like,
That was his first time ever turkey
yeah, that was
hunting.
his first time
Didn't
in the
that
turkey
have
wood.
2 beards? Was it
Yeah,
a double
yeah,
beard?
it was a double bearded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, his
And-
first hunt ever, double bearded gobbler.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm like,
okay.
it doesn't always happen like that. It was probably 9 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 9:30 when we got this bird. But yeah, we made one setup in the woods or in the field. That didn't work. Made one setup in the woods, and they came in like nothing. So it was just super cool to get him out there, and get him hooked on turkey hunting. I'm actually he booked another hunt with me this year.
Yeah, we got all three of us are gonna. Could you imagine a triple?
That'd be wild.
So
I hope it happens.
If I still have a tag, I mean, so he's got a PA tag, right?
Yeah,
Do you think he'll get a New York tag if we needed to?
I doubt it.
Okay. I mean, I'll still hunt with him in
Yeah.
PA. I'll just call for him. We'll do our old, 40-yard back trick and get a gobbler right in his lap. It'd be fun. I'm excited for him to come back because we haven't been able to hunt together since he lived there.
Yeah, he
with
moved
us.
it down closer to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he basically moved back home.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, good stuff. But, Frank, I know you don't hunt nearly as much for turkeys as Tom and I do, but there is a time you did kill a bird.
In the fall.
In the fall, yeah. You're the only one with a fall bird.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever heard this story start to finish.
I
So-
do want to hear that story, but I'm sure you have a good spring gobbler story. That's what's coming up, spring gobbler.
I know you with your dad, you've had some fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So
me and my
let's-
dad used to go out a lot.
Let's hear your fall story real quick because I know it doesn't sound like it was like a super crazy wild hunt.
It was a lot of fun, but it was a very short hunt.
Yeah, that's right. There wasn't a ton of detail to it.
No, I had been deer hunting in this one spot. It was it was archery season, and I kept seeing these turkeys. I wasn't gonna shoot one with my bow because I was deer hunting, and I finally got sick of seeing them every day. I was like, you know what? I'm taking my shotgun out tomorrow, and I'm gonna lay one of these things down. And so I go out and I'm sitting there. I get set up, and
Massive buck.
no, I would have killed myself. But so I'm sitting there, and right when they always show up, because you can time turkeys.
Yeah.
They're not there. I was like, what a joke this is. This is dumb. The one day I bring a gun to shoot one of these things, and they're not coming. So I pull out. I just had a glass pot call, and I'm not kidding. I clucked twice. Just cluck, cluck. And it sounded like a gang was running through the woods. I could hear it when...
About how far?
I would say they were probably 150 yards when I first heard them. It was right after I clucked, and they just came hauling ass in, just sprinting right to me. There was 30 of them.
Wow.
And they just got right in my lap, and I was like, all right. And I shot the first Jake that, was right
Were they
there.
all Jakes and hens?
All Jakes and hens. There were not a long beard in the group.
Hey, if that's all there is, that's all there is.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my
Ain't gonna
first...
stop me from getting a gobbler.
It was my first turkey by myself. Yeah, I'd
Nice.
gotten with my dad before, but...
Yeah, it's a cool feeling when you finally notch the belt on your a solo turkey hunt. Because even Tom and I have killed a whole bunch of gobblers together, and it doesn't feel like you're alone. Even if it's it's different. When I was sitting in my dad's lap, literally, because then it's all I did was man the gun.
Yeah.
And then when Tom and I go out, it's we kind of call a little bit each of us.
You're working as a team.
And typically, if Tom and I are hunting together, he's the more we'll pretty much do his plan. But when you hunt by yourself, there's nobody else to work with or anything. It's just you, and it's a cool experience. But
yeah, so that was my first solo bird, and it was a lot of fun. It was super easy. It was like how people say in the fall when you turkey hunt in the fall, if you just go bust up the flock and then call a little bit, they'll come running right back. I didn't even bust up the flock, but it was very minimal.
do they literally just spook the flock?
I've never done it that way, but I've heard a lot of people say they just go find the flock, bust them up on purpose, just go spook them all, scatter them, and then
Sit
call,
down.
and then they come. They all want to get back together into their group. So if you just call a little bit, and I'm sure it doesn't work every time, but
Yeah. I've never dedicated an ounce of time to hunting in the fall because
It's deer
I'm
season.
deer hunting.
yeah, and it's not like there is no fall turkey season outside of deer
Yeah.
season. It's 100% in deer season, and I'd much rather. And that's the only time I ever actually turkey hunted in the fall was that hunt.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I'd
there
much
is-
rather be deer hunting.
There is that 1 or 2 day deal for Thanksgiving. But we can
Not anymore.
Oh, they don't
Yeah,
do that
they
anymore?
only did it for. They used to do it a long time ago. They got rid of it. Then they brought it back for a couple years and then got rid of it again.
That's too bad. I always thought it'd be cool to go kill a
They were
Thanksgiving
changing
bird.
a lot of stuff with turkeys for a few years. I think it was right around that same time you were allowed to hunt them with rimfire 22.
Yeah, 22s and 17s.
Yeah, and then they ixnayed that again. So they've gone kind of back and forth with a lot of the turkey.
I think that's a
laws.
safety thing.
Yeah. So yeah.
But I know. Do you have any wild stories from hunting with your dad over the years?
Nothing really wild. One of my favorite turkey hunting story with him, I was really little. It might have been like my first or second turkey hunt with him. We were back behind Grandma and Grandpa's, and I was really small. I don't even remember how old I was. I was a little kid, so I wasn't even hunting. This was before they had the mentor program, and he just wanted.
Yeah, because you were already of age to hunt by the time the mentor program came in. 'Cause
Yeah, I think I was 14 or 15.
Not quite. I was 10 the first year, so you'd have been like 13.
Okay.
Yeah, because the first year that they had the mentor program, I was 10 years old and I smacked a gobbler opening morning.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, it wasn't opening morning. It was midweek. But I remember feeling like the big dick in class, walking in fourth grade, like, oh, you guys just rolled out of bed, had breakfast. I'm like, I shot a turkey this morning.
Yeah.
Like, what's up?
What are you about?
But anyway, so you're home with your dad.
Yeah, we were back behind Grandma and Grandpa's, and he's calling these birds in, and I think he actually told this story a couple years ago on the podcast when we had the Father's Day thing. Anyway, so he's calling, and these birds are coming in on a rope like nothing. But I'm a little kid; I don't understand what's going on. You know, I just hear gobbling, I hear them coming in, and then I see these birds start coming. That we were right on the edge of the shooting range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know where you're at.
So we're right on the edge of this big field, and they're coming like up the one path to come out into the field, and I see them coming down the path. I was like, oh man, they're about to be in range. He's gonna light one up here pretty quick. I was like, I better plug my ears because it's gonna get wild. So I reach up and plug my ears, and like half a second later, he blam. I was like, perfect timing, nailed that. And he shot so fast because when I went and plugged my ears, I spooked him, and they started to run away. And he's like, I really want to shoot one to get me excited. And he ended up shooting a Jake. There was a Longbeard and a Jake coming out, and when I spooked him, his only opportunity was at the Jake, so he took that one just to get me excited, and I was loving it. And then we were walking out, and I told him, I was like, I timed that perfect. Like we were right on cue there, Dad.
He's like, oh, that's...
right before you pulled the trigger, I plugged my ears. He's like, that's why I had to pull the trigger right then. He didn't understand what was going on because they were coming in so perfect, and then all of a sudden they're gone. He's like, what the hell happened there?
Yeah.
And then when we were walking out, I let him know what happened.
Nice.
So that is my favorite turkey hunting story, just because it's with my dad. It was funny. I was a little kid, and it's probably my first turkey hunting memory. I may have gone with him once or twice before that, but that's like my first recollection of turkey hunting.
My first turkey hunting memory that I have, and like I said, I think I hunted opening day or something, but it was like just a random Tuesday or something. We were at dinner, just sitting at the table, and the way our house is set up, there's a big glass door on the backside of the dining room that overlooks like the whole backside of the property. And at the time, my dad used to keep the field, because there's a 10-acre field behind the house, and he used to keep it pretty short so you could see all the way to the back easy. And there was a flock of birds out there, and I was like, Dad, we should go hunting there tomorrow in the morning before school. Like, we never hunted behind the house. Like, we always went up to my granddad's or my Uncle John's, and he's like, oh, yeah, maybe we'll do that. If you get up in the morning, we'll go. I'm like, all right, yeah, all right, I'm going. Like, there's birds back there. This is guaranteed. And so I get up bright and early. I'm ready, probably standing next to my dad, ready to go before he even gets up.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And so we get all set up, and I was only 10, and I shot a shotgun like 3 times. Like, I was very new at this and stuff. So my dad found this like big log to like, or not really, it was like a tree limb. He kind of laid in front of me so I could have like a shooting rest, and then I just sat right in his lap. And we started calling in the morning, while the birds were on the roost, and we heard some gobbling, sounding good. And then about 150 yards out, I could just see, some movement. You couldn't tell if it was, hens or gobblers or anything. You just see the birds out there. And all of a sudden this hen lights up. And at the time, I didn't realize what that meant. My dad warned me. He's like, hey, buddy,
This might not happen.
this
now.
might not work out the way we wanted it to. He's like, but my dad always being the overly confident guy, like when we were little, he's like, but I got some magic. I think he called it chin music. He said that, if anything's going to work, this is what's going to do it for him. And he starts cackling like crazy. And all of a sudden, like on a string, that one gobbler that was in the group just beelines right for us. And I was like, all right, sweet. Like, this is happening. And there was this big vine, like in the woods. My dad said, hey, when he gets around that, he's going to be about 25 yards. Go ahead and take a shot. Because I was using a single shot 20 gauge with a scope on it. Actually, it was a 222 over 20 gauge. And so I'm like basically just shouldering the gun, looking at the vines. I see the bird come around the corner. My dad's in my ear. He's like, shoot him. I'm just getting all set up, looking at him. He's coming right at us. He gets to about 20. My dad's like, shoot him.
Just like the Trevor story.
Oh, it's exactly what happened. They're like, I mean, it is, we're getting close. And finally he's like, dude, you need to, that's like
Do
now.
it.
So I, boom, pull the trigger. Same thing. I'm pretty sure the wad smacked him in the beak. Folds right over. And at 10 years old, I paced it out at 11 steps. So
yeah, with 10-year-old steps.
So this thing was like about 15 feet in front of me. It was like 5 yards.
Yeah.
And I mean, just, my dad's like, what were you doing? And I was like, I just couldn't get the crosshairs. Like, I was thinking,
You had to be dead.
yeah, like I'm trying
right on
to
his
hit
eyeball.
it. Yeah, I was like thinking I needed to be like perfect on it. And he's like, no, buddy, just put it on its head and squeeze, like you're good. And I was like, okay. But
He's dead.
I remember it was only, I think it was like 7 o'clock, 7:30, something like that. And came back to the house like super stoked. Tried getting off of school that day. It didn't work. Just because like I just wanted to sit in the barn with my turkey. I was just so excited. But ended up going to school and just bragged to everybody.
Yeah.
And it was just a Jake. It had like a 3-inch beard, barely even had spurs. 3 inches is probably generous on it. You'd have to really stretch it for 3, but
But it was your first one.
Yeah.
So.
but and that hunt alone, I think, is what really got me just hooked onto turkey hunting, because it worked out that way, and I've been chasing that ever since. So
Yeah.
Tommy, you got any other turkey stories that are sticking out in your head right now? Is that a no?
Caught me off guard, not off the top of my head.
Well, I mean,
I got plenty of turkey stories, but
yeah, if you have one that's sticking out, I mean, you knew we were talking turkey stories tonight, so
Yeah,
it didn't
but-
really catch you that off guard.
Tom was spacing over there. He didn't know what was going on.
no, this is a pretty good turkey story. This isn't a kill story. But we were hunting in Clymer, me and Nick, and we hunted until about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and birds kind of shut up. So we go back to the truck. It starts to rain, and we're like, you know what? Let's just see what time the French Creek Tavern opens. We'll head down there and have a bite to eat and forget about this.
This is pre-cabin, right?
Oh, yeah, this is well before pre-cabin.
Before pre-cabin?
Well before.
Okay.
And we're like, find out that French Creek Tavern doesn't open till noon. So I'm like, well, we can either sit in the truck for 2 hours or we can go back out in the woods. So we decided to go back out into the woods, and we're walking down this main road, and this crow lets out some calling, and Gobbler hammers back. So we're like, shit, we need to get set up now. So we just get tucked off the side of the main trail right down in the creek bottom, and Nick decided he was going to do the calling. And he lets out a few yelps and does some cutting and whatnot, gets this bird fired up, and we can see him working his way right down to us down the hillside. And I mean, you can see freaking rope swinging on this gobbler as he's coming down. So he gets down and he gets hung up about like 40, 45 yards. And it was a shot that I knew I could make, but I was going to see if he could get any closer. And he's just hung out there, not coming in any closer. He didn't want to cross the creek. And I'm like, well, he's not going to hang out too much longer. I'm gonna give him the beans. So I got my gun shouldered, got the BB right on his head, pull the trigger, click. Freaking gun misfired. So his head freaking perks right up. He starts looking all around, putting, taking off up the hill. And, yeah.
That was that.
Yeah.
I did attempt a shot out of.
Oh, that is right. Yeah, out of desperation.
Yeah, I smacked a tree. Like there was a sapling about 5 inches in diameter, so not quite a sapling anymore, but small young tree. And just because like I heard Tom's gun click, and I think Tom even like was like, "You got to shoot," or he said something to me as the bird's
Probably
like
shit.
Yeah. So this bird's like taking off, and I'm like, screw it. Like pulled up and just smacked a tree. Like it didn't work out. But yeah, that was wild. It was like one of the like the almost didn't even hunt kind of success story.
You're on
or
your
almost
way out
success
of the
story.
woods.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that one. I still look at that tree when I walk by.
It's not far from your tree with the broadhead in it.
No, it's not. I got all sorts of markings on that property there. I remember I got that one bird that Tom says I stole from him when I was hunting with Paul the one morning. Paul didn't even fire. He was supposed to be filming me, and it was so early, like into the hunt, where Paul didn't think I was actually like getting ready to shoot. He thought I was just like kind of shouldering my gun, seeing what was going on. So he never even turned his camera on. He's like, I didn't even realize you were about to shoot. And he's like,
That was our first ever turkey hunt up in Clymer.
yeah.
And you punched your tag. I want to say it was before.
It was
It
like
was right at legal shooting.
Yeah, well, because it was before sunrise, but you have a half hour, and it was like right on the money. Like it was, I couldn't believe they were out of the tree that quick, honestly.
Yeah, it was insane.
But
I'm like, shit, hunting a turkey up here is gonna be easy.
Yeah,
And
I
it
do
is
have to
pretty
give Tom
easy
a
up
lot of credit on that one. You know, I was in the right place at the right time. Tom was calling pretty good. Worked out.
Is what it is.
Yeah,
That bird had a big old rope on him too.
yeah, it did.
That's still the biggest gobbler we've ever killed up there
Oh yeah, yeah. It was like
Until Monday.
until Monday.
it was
I
like
got one picked out. He's got about a 11-inch paintbrush on him.
yeah, I filmed it.
I
for
can't
you.
wait to see him.
Yeah.
I'll give you first dibs when they're
Oh, absolutely you will.
so. I might shoot that bearded hen.
I've always wanted to shoot a bearded hen. I almost shot one up in New York a couple years
I
ago.
want a double bearded gobbler bad.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
I've passed up quite a few bearded hens.
I have two, and then like after I passed up the last one, I was like, all right, I want one. And ever since the last time I passed one up, I haven't had a shot at one. I've seen a couple since then, but I haven't had shots at them.
Yeah. Well, I guess here's to 2023 turkey season.
Mm-hmm.
Tom's signing off. Already took his headphones off. So I
Starting to
guess
hurt my ears.
I guess we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening, everybody. And like I said, turkey season's right around the corner, so get outside.